Welcome to the Football Retro Podcast.
The word welcome, I guess, is stretching it a little when you're an Australian in a place like this today.
Hello and welcome to episode 8 of the Football Retro Podcast. I am your host, Johnny, and I'm joined once again by my mates and co-hosts, Adasi and Akram. How you going, guys?
Yeah, great, Johnny. Always a pleasure to be here on your show, talk some great quality football.
Mate, yeah, doing well. I mean, it's Friday night, shivering over here, but you know what? Really excited to get into this topic. What is the topic for today?
It's a special one. First of all, before we get started, we've been getting lots of positive responses from all the listeners, so thank you guys out there. Keep listening, keep hitting subscribe, keep liking them, and any feedback, any ideas, send them through to us. Alright, episode 8 already. So, today, it's a bit different to anything we've done before. A couple of months ago, we actually posted on our Instagram and Facebook accounts a team of the 90s for both South America and Europe. So today, we're going to be discussing a little bit those lineups. We'll go through them, and then by the end of them, we'll see and decide who wins. I mean, there's 3 of us, so hopefully we'll make a decision. Alright, any initial thoughts, any initial ideas, any opinion, guys?
Oh, just the 90s, mate. Best decade, eh? So we've got to go through that. It's going to be exciting. I like your lineups. When you put them up a couple months ago, man, I always thought they were pretty good. Can't wait to see what Adasi has to think about them.
Yeah, I mean, the 90s, growing up, watching football, quality players in that era, memorable era of footballers in that time. Just and to put these two teams together, such a hard ask. So to leave out players not even in the lineup or even on the bench. So the sheer quality in that decade was unbelievable. So looking forward to discussing our lineups.
Yeah, the 90s, I don't know why. You think of the 90s and there are so many highlights, there's so many players, there's so much that happens in the 90s that you think that's a great decade for football. I don't know if it's the World Cups. I don't know. You guys tell me.
No, I mean absolutely. Like, and especially if you compare to today, like I always feel like the '90s, the leagues and the competitions were all rich with so much talent. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. I mean, the amount of quality across the board, different countries, different clubs was very diverse, I think, and you had just the amount of players that would win the individual awards was changing from year on year, compared to the modern era that we have at the moment. So yeah, just quality all round.
Do you think it's the nostalgia as well kicking in? Like 10, 20 years from now, we'll look back and we could think, I remember Messi and Ronaldo, remember the Premier League when Man City and Guardiola and Liverpool and Klopp. Do you think the fact that we're not there anymore and that we're looking at it 20 years later, that we think, do you think that's a factor as well?
Yeah, I'd say so. I mean, 90s was a game changer with things changing in technology, the birth of the internet, and then you had, the birth of the UEFA Champions League as well that time, moving on from the previous European Cup days, and then you see how it was hard for a team to win it 2 years in a row. No one did it in the 90s, which shows the quality of the players at the time and the clubs.
Yeah. But I can see your point, Johnny, like with nostalgia, because I guess in 20 years, how are people going to look at not so much Messi and Ronaldo, because mate, like their legacy is so etched in stone, it's unbelievable. But I think about players like Modric, Kroos, Pogba. Like in 20 years, is Pogba going to be remembered as this massive dynamo box-to-box player? Are they going to, what are people going to think about him, Kante? And you compare those kind of guys to players from the 90s and think about those. That tier below the Messi Ronaldos of today, and you think about it and you go, I can see what you're saying. 20 years from now, you're going to go, wow, players today the talent was stacked.
So let's get into it. What do you guys want to do first, Europe or South America?
Mate, you're the host, you're the boss. You choose.
Yep, host goes.
All right, let's go with South America. Alright, it's the first one that I've got here in front of me.
Let's do it.
So from the post, going back, goalkeeper. If anyone argues with me, I'll stop the show right now
We're fired.
and we leave.
We're fired. All right.
So it's a straight choice of Jose Luis Chilavert. So 3 times best keeper in the world. I think we've spoken about this in previous episodes. It's almost impossible, especially in the modern era, for a goalkeeper playing in the domestic leagues in South America to win best keeper in the world. He did it 3 years in a row. Not only that, he got world fame by changing the role of the goalkeeper. So it's not just becoming a shot stopper, not only stopping goals but scoring goals. So he still holds the Guinness World Record for scoring a hat-trick in a game.
Fair enough. Yeah.
Yes, other keepers after him went on and scored penalties and free kicks, but he was the one that revolutionised the position. So what do you guys think?
Yeah, when I think of South American goalkeepers, for me it has to be Jose Luis Chilavert.
Chilavert, eh?
Thanks, Zach. When you first think of him, you think he's a goal-scoring goalkeeper with his free kicks, and not just that, but the way he carried Paraguay at France '98 was something to remember as well. 2 clean sheets and conceded just 2 goals. Very unlucky to bow against France in the round of 16.
Yeah.
Not only that, he was just a great leader.
Yeah, and you hear so many stories, and like I listen to the Argentinian sports radio every morning, and you hear so many different people coming through, and his personality and his leadership skills, and he was just a leader all around.
Yeah, you think of Paraguay, think of him.
Yeah,
pretty much.
Yeah, fair enough. I mean, like, so do you, who are you gonna stick with?
I'm going to stick with Chilavert.
Yeah, how do you pronounce his name again? Sorry, Darcy.
Chilavert.
Chilavert. All right.
Fuck, he's gone French all of a sudden.
Well, he did play in France, but Chilavert.
Strasbourg.
Yeah.
I mean, I like to think about there are keepers like Claudio Taffarel and a couple of great contenders. But in the interest of keeping my job, we'll just go with Chilavert.
You have to mention Higuita as well.
Yeah.
Higuita, he was one word to describe him: eccentric.
Yeah, he was a character.
Definitely.
All right, back 4. According to the Post, we got right back Cafu, centre backs Montero and Ruggeri, and left back Roberto Carlos.
Yeah, left back Roberto Carlos is my pick. One of the best left backs, not just in Brazilian history, but in world football. One of my favourite players of all time. Just the way he bursted down that left-hand side, his free kicks, his shots on goal, just didn't stop running. Just a machine back up and down that field. Amazing player to watch. We think of 90s, he was one player that sticks out. Yeah.
Number 3.
Yeah, I mean, to be fair, can you go against Roberto Carlos on your left and Cafu on your right?
I mean, no. I mean, you really can't. Me and you were talking before. Darcy was running half an hour late, but I mentioned Javier Zanetti, and while he was playing in the 90s, you did mention that the peak of his career was more in the early millennium. So you can't really argue it. You think of left backs. Honestly, Roberto Carlos defined it. You think of right backs, Cafu defined it, and they both played with such fantastic style of football that, I mean, I guess it's not a controversial pick at all, eh?
They typified the Brazilian way of playing.
I feel like Adasi's got someone up his sleeve.
I think it was a tough. Right back was a tough one. I was going to go with Zanetti.
Okay.
I think he was the guy's a class act.
Yeah.
Quality, great going forward. I think defensively as well, he was very solid.
What year did he join Inter?
1995.
I think it was.
So there was a five good years.
I mean, 98 he scored against England.
Yeah.
So he was from the mid 90s to the late 90s. He really did make a name.
So
for
I can see
himself.
both sides, eh? I think Cafu, maybe you go with. I mean, the World Cup success definitely.
All right, let's
tips
do
him over.
this. Pick Cafu or Zanetti now. Go.
Zanetti.
Whoa.
Cafu.
I'll go Cafu as well. Easy. All right, centre backs. I mean, to be fair, I don't feel like South America in the 90s produced great or world-class centre backs. So we've got Montero and Ruggeri there. Ruggeri's more about the early 90s, so he retired mid to late 90s, but he won obviously the 86 World Cup, and he won 2 Copa Americas in the early 90s. Once again, a leader, strong character, not very well known, but big character. Montero, on the other hand, He's got records for red cards. He's got records for being a dirty player.
He was a fantastic defender, though.
But
It
yeah,
was
that's what I'm
really-
saying. He made it to Juventus somehow. The Juventus of the 90s. Great defending qualities. What do you guys think?
Yeah, I'm going to agree with Montero. And Ruggeri, as you mentioned, his accomplishments with Argentina. But for me, in terms of who I saw in the 90s, in terms of centre-backs for South America, I'm going to mention Aldair as well, the Brazilian
okay.
centre-back.
Yep.
Yeah.
Winner with the Brazilian 94 World Cup. Spent a number of years with Roma as well, so he did very well in his time there. And also runner-up with Brazil, France 98. He was a good, solid defender as well back in the day, Aldair.
Hack?
I mean, like, you know, we talked about it a little while ago. You know, you mentioned Roberto Ayala as well. Was a bit of a contender for you. I mean, like, you know what? It was a bit of a weak point in your South American lineup.
In my South America lineup.
Yeah, in your South American lineup. Didn't you not pick it? Who picked this thing?
Yeah, someone did.
But no, like, you know, I mean, it is one of those things. It's a bit of a weak point there, but at the same time, Ayala, you know, was a great defender as well. But, you know, either way, I think it's one of those things. It's a bit of a toss up.
The other one that we've got here on the bench on this post is Escobar. He might have made it because he died.
Yeah, unfortunate circumstances for him. I mean,
So why are we laughing?
Very tragic. I mean, I don't know why I'm laughing. But yeah, no, in all seriousness, yeah, he was part of the Colombian squad that in USA 94, no, were dark horses to win that tournament, the Colombia. They beat Argentina that 5-0
5-0, yeah.
in Argentina.
So he was a great upcoming player. A lot of people say good stuff about him, but
And then unfortunate own goal cost him his life.
pretty much got shot down.
Yeah.
All right. Midfields. Now, strong midfield here. I think it's a very strong midfield.
Yeah.
And balanced as well, which is important. So we've got Dunga, captain for Brazil in the 94. Is that right?
Yeah,
He was captain,
yes,
wasn't he?
yes, he was.
Cool. He also played the 98 World Cup.
He did.
Finalist. Yeah.
He did.
We also have Redondo, star for Real Madrid, star for Argentina.
Yeah.
To me, one of the best and classiest midfielders to play the game.
Yeah.
And then we also have Francescoli for what he did in River Plate.
Yeah.
He also won the Copa America with Uruguay in 95. So international trophies, continental trophies, local trophies.
Yeah.
Can you argue with that?
I'm gonna agree with that midfield. I think it's a good, like you said, the balance of attack and defense. Yeah, Redondo, as mentioned, was a class number 6 player in that midfield, you know, for Real Madrid and Argentina. You know, just imagine what could have been if he didn't have that disagreement with Daniel Passarella.
Yeah.
All about a haircut. It's like,
Look, he's come out recently. I said there was more to it. That the hair was an excuse for them to not pick him because they just didn't want him.
Yeah,
but
yeah, yeah.
anyways, it's a different
you know,
story.
yeah.
Yeah.
No, I mean, like at the end of the day, I don't think you can really argue with that choice, with those 3 choices. I think they're all elite, classy midfielders. You know, captains, inspirational players.
Yeah.
I mean, you got everything there in that midfield, and that would be, you know, probably the best midfielder in the world at that time if they all played together, man.
Well, let me throw another name in the mix.
In the mix, eh?
Yeah.
Valderrama.
Oh, you can't forget
Yeah.
that. You can't get him. Not just the hairstyle. You know, that's a define. That's what brings you back to the 90s. When you see Valderrama out there with that big blonde hair of his. But he was a quality midfielder as well, with his vision, his tackling, the way he'd pick out his strike partner. Great player, and he remembered. You know, think of Colombian football. He's one of the names that first name would come up to your mind.
100%.
Yeah.
Yeah. An icon of the 90s, both for fashion and his footballing style.
Yeah. El Pibe, isn't his
Sorry?
nickname?
El Pibe.
Pibe,
Yeah. Which means the kid, the child. Yeah.
I mean, whenever we're talking about elite players from in any kind of group or category, you're always splitting hairs. And I mean, like everything you both said is very valid, but you know, how do you leave out Francescoli, Dunga?
Exactly right.
Redondo,
Like if you bring Valderrama in, which one of them 3
Yeah, exactly.
would you leave out? Which is it's a Francescoli Valderrama sort of argument
Yeah.
Would it be, or would it be for Dunga?
because you got Redondo, they're taking care of the centre mid.
Yeah, mate, perhaps. I don't know. I'm just throwing it out there.
Yeah,
I
you
thought about
go in against a winning captain of the World Cup,
True,
a
true.
two-time finalist.
Yeah. You need someone to do a bit
Who
of
did
dirty work.
Dunga play for club level?
He was mostly in Brazil. He did play in Japan for a bit towards the end of his
So
career.
like didn't peak in
Oh.
Europe, or
Not that I remember. I don't remember much of his club career.
mate,
in
if you don't
Europe.
remember, then I trust.
That's what I'm saying, like, because
It
I
never
trust your
happened.
judgment.
Then it
because he
never
was
happened.
because when I started watching, he was towards the end of his career. So
Yeah.
But I do remember towards the end that he did play in Japan.
All right, this front three.
No,
Oh.
this is the fun stuff.
Get ready for.
This is the fun stuff.
Grab the tissues. Get ready for the orgasmic front three. All right, we've got Ronaldo, Batistuta, Maradona. Go.
Well, I mean, what can you say about a front three like that? You have the creativity and the genius of Maradona. You have the goals from Ronaldo and Batistuta. It's a perfect front three. Like, what do you say? Adasi, what do you say?
What can I say? These are the guys
Well,
that
say something, mate. We're on a podcast here.
just world class and plus. You know, these guys. You know, Ronaldo, one of the best strikers in the world, and we keep mentioning it before. You know, talking off air. You know, what if wasn't those injuries? You know, what more could he have done? And Batistuta, just a typical clinical finisher. Great number 9. You know, the amount of quality goals he scored was unbelievable. And then you have Diego Armando Maradona, who's one of the best players
The
ever.
GOAT.
Yeah.
The GOAT. Come on, just say it.
I might argue here.
He,
Look, I know I put the thing together, but I might argue because it's the 90s, and this is the only argument that I bring in the case.
yeah, I think I know what you're saying. Yeah.
Because it's the 90s,
Yeah.
obviously Maradona was included because he played in the 90s. And if
Yes.
Maradona touched the ball in 2000, I would include him in the best team of the nuts.
I
Yeah.
would for 2022.
Yeah, he was
Yeah.
born in 1960, and I probably put him in the best team in the 60s. But looking at performance, looking at all that stuff,
Mm-hmm.
you could be forgiven for leaving him out
Yeah.
Yeah.
and putting Romario instead, couldn't you?
I mean, you could in terms of playing career, but at what point do you start looking at that formation and going, you know, you wouldn't mind the creativity of a Maradona versus the goal scoring of Romario? You already have two elite all-time goal scorers. I get what you're saying in terms of resumes and what they actually did in the 90s, but then I would be more inclined to replace Batistuta or Ronaldo with Romario rather than Maradona, because you need that number 10. You know, it's more fun to have someone that clashes a little with other players rather than
So you're looking at a balance.
thing. Yeah, like you said about the balanced
At a team
midfield,
balance, yeah.
the idea of a balanced front three. You don't want necessarily 3 guys who are just goal scorers. You want someone who's going to create.
Yeah, I'd say so. I mean, it's not often you see 2 or 3 strikers up front who all play a similar style game. They all work together well, because sometimes you'll have a player that has distinguishing qualities to compare to the other
So-
striker or 2, that depending on the formation.
So keeping that in mind, would you say something like, how far would the argument go? And I'm just putting it out there, so don't fire me again, Johnny. But how far would you go if you were to say put Rivaldo in there for a bit more of the creativity rather than Romario, let's say?
Yeah, Rivaldo, he'd probably, in terms of front 3, he'd be more of a push back, more like a second, third striker.
Yeah, well, so would Maradona, just because
Yeah.
he's on the left, on the left or the right, he would still end up moving centrally behind the 2 strikers anyway.
Yeah.
So what a team for it to be for Romario
Yeah.
to miss out, for Valderrama to miss out.
Rivaldo.
Rivaldo. The other 2 names we had on the bench on that post were Zamorano and Salas.
Yeah, that was,
The two-
that was
Far
a
out.
fantastic strike partnership for Chile. They were
Yeah.
great players. Zamorano, quality at Real Madrid, and then moved to Inter Milan as well.
A bit slightly underrated when it comes to the 90s, eh? You
Yeah.
don't see him mentioned as terms of some of the most elite players,
and
I
you
feel.
remembered as well for having the 1+8 on the back of his shirt.
Yeah.
To accommodate Ronaldo.
That was awesome, mate. You never see something like that nowadays.
Yeah, but no, he was a great striker, just a typical great number 9.
So just to recap, South America, goalkeeper Chilavert. Oh, it's Stasi calls him Gilavert.
I don't know. I've been corrected by the South American.
Back 4, Cafu, Montero, Ruggeri, Roberto Carlos. Ruggeri can be replaced by Ayala. All 3 of us agree. Dunga, Redondo, Francesco in the midfield. Maradona, Batistuta, and Ronaldo. A very strong lineup.
That attack would be like
Yeah.
all time, man. That's a fantasy
Yeah.
attack.
Well,
But you need a second ball there.
keep that in mind. So, what you just said, keep it in mind. Come back to me in about 20 minutes, and then
And then we'll see.
we'll see. Because let's move on now to the European side. This might be a little bit tougher for us to pick. There's a lot of names out there.
Yes.
Goalkeeper. I mean, one comes to mind. There's obviously other ones as well. Schmeichel. Yes, no.
I mean, like, you know, me and my famous anti-Man United bias, but at the same time, I feel like Schmeichel went above and beyond what a goalkeeper also does. He was such an inspirational leader and warrior for Man United that, like, I was happy with the pick when I saw it after. Yeah, fair enough. I mean, Schmeichel, you think Man United, you think the 90s?
Yeah, I can't really argue with that with Schmeichel, not just his success with Man United, but also in Euro 92, taking Denmark all the way to the championship in that tournament that they were in there by default because Yugoslavia were kicked out due to the war. So to take a nation that shouldn't have been there all the way to the final and win it, and he was a leader. He led Denmark from that time, and then that catapulted him to, I think, a move to Man United after that, and then the success up until '99 with the treble caps it off.
I was thinking about Fabian Barthez,
98 World Cup.
98 World Cup. I was thinking about Edwin van der Sar.
Van der Sar,
with
Ajax.
days.
Absolutely. So, there are definitely contenders that I think would go there. And I think if I made the lineup, I probably would have put someone like Van der Sar. But at the same time, there's no argument to really be made to convince me otherwise of Schmeichel.
Then the goalkeeper we have on the bench on that post is Gianluca Pagliuca.
Okay, fair enough, mate. Fair enough.
Yeah, he was a well-known standout player for Italy at USA '94, getting the runner-up at that time, and also played for Italy in the France '98, they reached the quarterfinals. Yeah, he was a very acrobatic keeper, did his job very well. Yeah, he'd be a name up there, I think, as well. He was a good keeper.
In club football, he played for
Inter,
Inter?
and I think Bologna as well.
Yeah.
Bologna.
Now this gets interesting. Tell me if this is not the best back four you've heard in your life. All right, right back Maldini, centre backs Baresi and Stam, left back Desailly.
Quality defenders, I'll just do the swap and put Maldini left back and take out Desai. As much as a great player, I'll put Lilian Thuram right back.
Oh, yeah. No, I can see what you're saying. Look, I didn't think of that when I saw the formation and the lineup, probably because I didn't think that much about it. But I did find that the four that Johnny put, if you're going to really think about positions and what they played, fair enough. But the four best defenders of the 90s in Europe and possibly between Europe and South America, I would say were those four. I was thinking not Desai, I was thinking Blanc. But honestly, it's a tosser, mate.
But you put Blanc, he was a centre back naturally.
Yeah, so was Desai, wasn't he not?
Yeah,
He's played
Desai was a central midfielder, holding midfield. He moved to defence.
Well, in Chelsea, he played as a centre mid a lot of the time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But either way, I think that when we said that that's a fantasy strike force for South America, that's a fantasy defense. So keep that in mind in 20 minutes.
And that's what I was saying. Keep it in mind because yes, you've got Maradona, you've got Batistuta, and you've got Ronaldo. Yeah. But they're going up against these four monsters.
Monsters. And monsters is a great way to put it.
Literally brick walls, to be honest, man. Jaap Stam, what a quality defender he was. He was just a hard man defender, rock solid. Hardly anything could get past him. Yeah, he was just great to watch.
Here's a question off centre. Is Maldini the greatest defender to play in the Champions League?
Oh, I mean, it's a funny one that you ended the sentence with to play in the Champions League. But I would make the argument that he could perhaps be the greatest defender of all time and just, period. Because what defenders dominated in so many different areas of football, so many different decades. I mean, a player that went from left back to centre back, and he could do it all. He did it with finesse as well. Yeah. He did it. He wasn't necessarily the typical rugged, rough and tumble centre back. He would mark you out of a game.
Yeah, he was hard to get past that guy. He was a just solid Italian defender.
It's the best defender of all time.
Yeah,
It's a tough one, but okay. Can I just ask you?
I think about defenders. He comes to mind.
Who would you argue that could equal as an all-time great defender, as the all-time great?
Adasi will say Ramos.
Screw it, that's
No,
say Ramos. I'll
no.
say Ramos, man.
Yeah, Ramos will be up there,
He won us a Champions League a
and
few
he
years
has.
ago.
But Baresi as well.
Yeah.
He's in the team as well.
He's in the team, and
He's-
there's a reason for that. And
So you know what? Like you're gonna say one Baresi, two Maldini. Either way, they're both on the team.
exactly, and there's that defense of AC Milan in the '94 season when they only scored like 36 goals, but then conceded like 16 goals the whole season. It just shows how rock solid they were. And of course, they had Costa Curta as well.
Yeah, I mean, and that's the thing. Like the mark of how great those defenders were, Johnny, because of the players that you left out: Costa Curta, Blanc, Thuram. Like these are some fantastic,
They are.
legendary, iconic players that you were talking about here.
Yeah,
All right, we'll move into the midfield. We've got Cantona, Haji, and Zinedine Zidane.
Yeah. So the midfield's a little funny. Like I think this is where I think Europeans, the European team of the '90s that you've made would come a little undone in an actual game against the South American team because that midfield's lacking a little bit of defensive cover.
yeah.
Zidane ain't going tackling back. You know that's just not his game.
Yeah.
And yeah, so like but hey, Zidane, Cantona, Haji was a genius, mate. Haji was a genius. Much like what you said with Maradona, wouldn't you say Haji kind of played most of his, the peak of his career more like to the late 80s, more than the early 90s, a bit more like similar?
No, I'd say the '90s he made his mark as well. Like he was at Barcelona.
He was at
and
Barcelona.
Yeah, Real Madrid for a bit as well.
94 World Cup, he was a standout.
I mean,
Yeah,
my
true,
first
fair enough.
my first ever World Cup memory was that goal he scored against Colombia, that long range effort. What a finish! He scored many of those type of goals, and they called him the Romanian Maradona. Yeah, he was not that big in stature, but man, the guy had a lot of skills and great technique on him and a great shot. And yeah, he was. I think of what Valderrama was to Colombia, Hagi was to Romania. Fantastic to
Yeah.
watch.
The only thing about that midfield I would think about would be I'd probably put Cantona up as a forward and put Lothar Matthäus as a
I
midfielder.
haven't gone there yet.
Sorry, mate.
Spoiler alert!
Spoiler alert.
Spoiler alert!
And from what Darcy said about Thuram coming as a left back,
Uh-huh.
we can put Haji on the bench if we want to, and put this Lee as a centre mid
Yeah,
to
that's,
sort
that's
of to
interesting.
become more defensive and have more of a balanced midfield.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's not a bad idea.
All right, front three. Well, we know which one of them is. Say it again, Ak.
So yeah, you put Lothar Matthäus and who are the other two?
Van Basten and Baggio. We have to have Baggio there.
Yeah.
I think that's the number one. When you think forwards and you think 90s, Baggio's the number one choice next to Batistuta and Ronaldo.
Absolutely. Yeah, Baggio was quality.
Yeah.
He played for all the big clubs in Italy. Just
Absolutely, yeah.
Juve, AC Milan, Inter. Yeah, to play, not many people can say that.
Fiorentina.
Yeah.
He was a
Brescia.
genius.
Yeah.
We're just gonna keep going, guys.
Bologna as well, and then of course what he did with Italy, Italia '90, that goal against Czechoslovakia, was it? Or Yugoslavia? That
Yeah, because
run from the
94 was
side.
Bulgaria, wasn't it?
Yeah, in the semis, 2 goals,
Yeah.
but then unfortunately people will remember that missed penalty, which but
Yeah,
that's what
unfortunately,
happens. That's what happens.
That's just the way
That's
it is.
football,
But no taking away his genius
Yeah.
though. Like the guy was a legit, genius of football. He was one of the, those great creative players of all time.
Yeah.
You think about the South American team with Maradona, Ronaldo in it,
Yeah.
Francescoli. I mean, Europe would have Zidane, Hagi, Cantona, Baggio. There's a lot of players there able to create chances.
Van Basten, another what if.
Oh yeah, huge what if, and what a goal scorer! Like you definitely have that elite goal scorer to go with to go up against the South American team there. No way.
Yeah, he was. I know it was in the late '80s that goal he had against
88, the final, yeah.
against Soviet Union. But amazing player. Unfortunately, career cut short because of injuries. They still don't take away from the quality and the technique he had in front of goal.
And Mateus, so you drop him back a little bit, would you, Ak? So you play a 4-4-2 formation with these guys?
Not necessarily 4-4-2. I mean, you could definitely, but I would put maybe Cantona as an attacker as well. Put Baggio. Baggio would track back a little. Put Cantona and Van Basten more as the strikers with Baggio right behind them. And Mateus would definitely play. He was the ultimate box-to-box midfielder, man. One of the most complete midfielders of all time. Who would, with a penchant of scoring goals, and just such an inspirational leader for Germany and for club football.
So would you have been your starting 11?
Would I have him in my starting 11? So once again, it becomes the issue of who do you take out and who do you put in. Honestly, I think I would keep him. I don't disagree with that choice at all.
Yeah, look, I'd keep him in there, but I think, as you mentioned, probably change it to a 4-4-2 and push him further back because put him more in central midfield. Well, that's where he flourished. And he's one of those players which you remember he was playing as defence and he was a number 10, something you don't really see much. A number 10.
Oh yeah, that's
number
it,
10 in central defence. So yeah, he was led Germany to the World Cup in 1990, which. Sorry, I had to mention it to our host here.
You're not that sorry.
Bad
man.
memories.
Let's be honest.
And then he had a long career, successful career with Bayern Munich as well.
Now, we haven't spoken about the bench, really. It's a strong bench that we have here in the post.
It is.
Defender Adams, Arsenal legend, English.
Yeah, what can you say? Legendary defender. I would think about like me and Darcy were talking about Blanc, Thuram, and Costa Curta as well. Yeah. But hey, legendary players are legendary players. It deserves to be there.
Yeah, Adams. Tony Adams. He had a great career with Arsenal
when he was sober. Yeah.
Yeah. And then he won a premiership with '98, and then he also was a key part of England's defence in Euro '96, and then. I also consider the name Fernando Hierro as well. He'd be one in there.
True.
He had a very good career too.
Now, attacking players. There are 4 attacking players here on the bench. Stoichkov.
Yeah, wow.
Legendary player.
Yeah.
Legendary player. Dennis Bergkamp.
Another legend.
Yeah, 100%.
Class. Pure class. 98 World Cup.
How could you leave him out?
Arsenal legend.
Yeah. Del Piero.
Yeah.
Juventus.
Yeah,
won a Champions
totally
League.
Agree.
Yeah.
I was thinking about Del Piero as well. Like he definitely deserves to be mentioned at least.
And Jurgen Klinsmann.
Yeah. Klinsmann was just a great goal scorer back in the day.
So you guys mentioned Blanc, you mentioned Thuram, Costa Curta, Hierro. Any attacking plays that you think we're missing here? Anyone else that you think might?
Yeah, I'm thinking 90s. Double Schuka.
True, 98 World Cup.
Yeah.
He was a great player. France 98 Golden Boot, played for Real Madrid and Sevilla. And who else would you put, Mac?
Oh no, honestly, I think that you kind of, when it comes to the attack, I think you pretty much nailed it. I know I've thought about Del Piero definitely straight away. I think you pretty much nailed it, eh?
Yeah, it's a strong bench. I mean, for those guys to miss out. I mean, Klinsmann, Euro '96.
Yeah,
Germany won them again. They win everything.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, I think there's a bit of a case.
World Cup.
I think there's a bit of
the squad.
I think there's a bit of a case to be made for Raul, but not a strong one. Not compared to the players that you've mentioned.
When did Raul?
Raul
96.
He came on board about 95, 94 as a teenager, and then he was in France 98 squad. He won the Champions League with Real, so he was making his way up.
Okay.
So Raul would be a name in there as well.
Fair enough.
But like I said, not a strong one compared to the players we already put out there who from the beginning of the decade dominated.
All right, so we've got our starting 11. Maybe minor changes on both teams, but different styles of football as well.
Yeah.
There's always been that argument of South American flair against European systems. What are your arguments, or what are your discussions, or what are your thoughts on that topic?
Yeah, I think Europe, they were known for their structure.
Yeah.
A lot of structure in place, different styles of football. I think they had a fine balance of defence, midfield and attack. yeah, I think they just overall they were just very well organised across the board from attack to
100%. I mean, and that's what you think about
Yeah.
European football, like training really well, tactically very intelligent, especially the Italian players. Though, like, thinking about the two teams and the way we've laid them out, as they are with no changes, it's a tough one. About like who necessarily would win, thing like that. Putting Thuram in and Desai as a midfielder, I think really balances the team out. Where I would be more inclined to go with Europe. I don't know. What about you, Johnny? How do you feel?
Style of play. There's been that ongoing argument, and if we go straight into a Europe versus South America, forget the 90s. Europe versus South America. There's always been that Europe's the professionalism, Europe's the discipline, Europe's more like the systems, whereas South America brings the flair. South America brings the skills, brings that passion,
entertainment,
brings entertainment. So and this is just generalizing, of course, and this is stereotypical, but you think South America, you think that passion, you think the fans, you think that flair, you think Europe, you think that stuff. So it's different styles of football. Who do I think would win? Looking at these teams, looking at the overall balance, looking at the players, I'm going to have to go with South America. That's my pick.
Yeah. And there's no bias there at all.
A lot of bias, of course. There's a lot of bias, but Maradona, Batistuta, and Ronaldo. Tell me a better front three in the history of football.
Oh, boy, yeah, I know what you're saying there.
I know it's a fantasy three. It's not never happened. It never will. But
if you were to put it,
if you were to put it,
yeah. 100%. I know what you're saying there, mate. I know what you're saying. I mean, like, I think if you look at it like one match, I think you have a really good point. But I tend to think about like, all right, if you put 10 matches, one after the other every week, I honestly think that Europe would end up coming up trumps, only because I think that defense, mate, they would figure out how to stop you. That system, they would figure out how to stop you. It wouldn't take too long for them to figure it out and to figure out how to squeeze you guys shut. They attack is so important. I think it's been proven that attack in football tends to be more successful, but they always say that defense wins championships. And I think that we have the greatest defense you could ever possibly pull.
Who's we? You're not even European. What are you?
Oh, sorry, mate. Sorry, but we're not even European. But I am on the side of the Europeans when it comes to this argument. So yeah, far out, mate.
Look, the Brazilians have a saying. They said the best defense is attack. So if you score 3 against me, I'll score 4. So that's a different. And I get what you're saying. Like I said before, there's 4 monsters at the back. It'd be hard to get past.
And behind those 4 monsters is another monster.
Yeah, but in saying that, like Montero and Ruggeri are not easy to get through. Even if you put Ayala there instead of Ruggeri, it wouldn't be easy to get through there. And I feel like South America's attack is better than Europe's attack. I feel like South America's midfield is better than Europe's midfield. I mean, it's thin paper. Like it's very, very, very close. I'm not saying it's one way more than the other.
I mean, let's break down that midfield. Would you take Francesco Leo over Zidane?
No.
Would you take, let's say if you do what I do and put Lothar Matthäus there, would you take Matthäus or Dunga?
Depending what role we're looking at.
They're different players. So.
Yeah.
They are different players, but like regardless, who would you take? They're both midfielders. Who would you take? I mean, I would take Matthäus. I think Matthäus, while Dunga was an inspirational captain, I think Matthäus was an all-time, all-world midfielder. And then who was the other player? If you put Hagi, all right, Hagi versus Redondo. Oh, that's where I'll have to say Redondo, to be honest.
Redondo, yeah, I'll take.
Yeah.
Even if you put this at Levis Redondo, who would you take?
See, that's a hard one because then you start talking about different players, different styles, guys. Yeah. But I would probably have to take Redondo as well.
There you go. Let's change him around. They say Levis Dunga.
I would probably have to put Desai.
Okay. Yeah. So it becomes tough. Look, it's a very, very close one. I mean,
yeah.
So far, we've got 1 vote for South America in May, 1 vote for Europe. This is what I like to call the tiebreaker. This is where it all comes together. Moment of truth, whether Darcy keeps his job as a co-host or not. No pressure.
And I mean, to be honest, Adasi's not really told us. Adasi's not really told us what his opinion was on who would win until now. So I'm really interested to see.
It's a bit of a surprise.
Who's gonna pick.
And justify it.
Okay, have to pick one. Quality sides, but just the one, and it's a one-off game. I'm going to say Europe.
Wow.
I'm going to say
Very
Europe
interesting.
simply because their defense is just absolutely rock solid. And South America, while they're great players, great going forward, they'll probably most likely leave gaps at the back. With Cafu and Roberto Carlos will get exposed. And then as much as South America has that awesome front three, Maradona, Batistuta, Ronaldo, like complete fantasy world, fantastic. They'll score goals, but Europe will have their front three as well. They're just as good as well.
And who's going to be attacking Cantona? Cantona will be too busy kicking people in the in the crowd.
Kung fu kicks, or if he can keep away from and keep his cool. And then you've got Zidane as well in there, and Hadji. Great, good balance. I think they've just got the good balance across the board.
No, I reckon South America will win, even with a dead defender on the bench.
I reckon 5-4 Europe, 5-4 Europe in a one-off game. It'll be high scoring.
5-4, even score prediction.
I don't know. I just think. I don't know. I just.
You're going to tell us the time codes of when
See, I
players
refuse to
score?
believe that. I think that's impossible. I could not see Chilavert copying 5 goals in one game.
You could never just admit to that.
Or the
fantasy,
defense of
to that
Roberto
theoretical
Carlos and
idea.
Cafu, the back. As much as they great attack, they could be exposed. That's
It's funny
hypothetical.
it's funny we both agreed that Europe would win, or that we both side with that side. But at the same time, like I tend to look at it, go in a one-off match in one game. Those moments of genius and trickery and skill for that players like Maradona and Ronaldo could conjure up. I see that more likely in just one-off game. But I think about as you play more games over a period of time, that midfield and defense would just end up dominating. I think Maldini would just get that research, get that study of how these players are playing, and then just mark them out of the game. And so would Desai, so would Stam, so would all these other players.
Yeah,
you
mentioned defense. They'll have probably more structure. They just
I think that structure over time would.
Yeah,
but it's interesting that you'll think, but like if you had one game to stop someone from scoring, you take the European team.
Yeah, because they've got players that can change a game at any moment. You got Zidane, can do it.
True.
Baggio,
I mean, absolutely. I agree.
Cantona as well. He could pull a rabbit out of a hat.
No, absolutely, and that's a good point. Like we never really broke down the forwards versus forwards, because it's like who would you take between Batistuta and Van Basten? See, that's where you're really hard, mate. And honestly, I think if you were more objective, Johnny, you'd probably say Van Basten, right?
I love Van Basten. You guys know that I just bought a
quality shirt, by the way.
Netherlands 88 jersey. So yeah, I do love Van Basten. So there's one name that just came to mind that we didn't touch on, Edgar Davids.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, no. Look, that would be a really good midfielder to add in there. But like I kind of like the idea that you had before. We're putting Desai as a central defensive midfielder versus Edgar Davids. While he was a quality defensive midfielder, they call him the Pitbull.
They did, yeah. And known for his goggles
and his dreadlocks, and I mean, what a fantastic player! Love for him to be in FIFA 21. Unfortunately, I don't think he will be. But honestly, I would have to say that I think Desai would be a stronger defender, central defensive midfielder there anyway.
More than Davids, you reckon?
I mean, in terms of career, in terms of legacy, I think he was a better all-round defender and player. And while Davids was fantastic for Juve,
and the fact he shifted to the central defence seamlessly as well, I think. Yeah.
Are there any players that come to mind for either of you that you think we haven't mentioned, that we've forgotten about, or someone that could sneak in there? Who comes to mind? Anyone at all?
What about you, Adasa? I was thinking about, I don't know, Clarence Seedorf, does he deserve a mention?
Yeah, maybe not in the starting lineup though. As much as he's a great player and I enjoyed watching him play.
Maybe not really. I mean,
maybe off the bench, maybe.
Yeah, possibly. It's a tough one, Johnny, because I think like I said to you before, I think you nailed the squad, mate. Like, I'm trying to rack my brain for anyone in Europe. I bet you, like after the podcast, we'll think about 2 or 3 players that definitely deserve at least a mention. But at the top of my head,
Well, I can think of maybe Rui Costa.
mate, Rui Costa, what a fantastic number 10 though. Like
Yeah.
he doesn't get enough credit for
Yeah.
being such a creative player and such a driving force for Fiorentina. Behind Batistuta all those years.
Yeah, I don't think Rui Costa, in the 90s, it was with Fiorentina, and Portugal didn't really have much success in that era other than a quarter-final appearance of Euro 96.
No, yeah, 100%.
But,
Of course.
Then he moved to AC Milan in the beginning 2000s, and that's when he kind of won more trophies.
Oh, yeah.
That's probably why probably not many people mention him.
Well, I'm looking through the Ballon d'Or winners now of the 90s, just to get an idea. And Alan Shearer came third in 96.
Yep. So
Yeah.
Those great Euros he had, top scorer.
David Beckham came second in 99. Luis Figo finished first in 2000, which means in the 90s he would have been...
Oh, definitely, you know, making his mark, absolutely. And to be honest, I feel really guilty that we didn't at least mention him because, you know, what a player. And, you know, I think some would argue from 97 to 2000 was his prime.
Yeah, particularly for Barcelona, because
Yeah.
not so much for Portugal, but yeah, for Barcelona, that's where he was in one of his peak periods.
But then who?
Before he became a trader. Yeah.
Greatest-
before he became a hero.
Greatest
you mean?
transfer in history.
What's crazy for me, and I just saw it now, is we think of Dennis Bergkamp, we think 98 World Cup, we think Arsenal in the early 2000s. Ballon d'Or, he came third in 92
Wow.
and second in 93,
Wow.
which is like a lot earlier than I had in mind, than had pictured anyway.
Yeah.
No, fair enough. Yeah, like he was definitely, I guess, you know, doing really well throughout the entire decade. I mean, but okay, so then if there was one player that I would consider taking out of the European team, I would say it would have to be Cantona.
Yeah.
Not saying I would take him out, but I think, you know, when you make that argument for Bergkamp, perhaps I could see myself taking Cantona out for Bergkamp. But that is a tough one, you know.
Shevchenko also.
Yeah.
Yeah, Shevchenko is more the late 90s where he burst onto the scene with Dynamo Kiev. That was a surprise packet.
Love watching Shevchenko play though.
Yeah.
Number 7 for AC Milan as well. You know, like what a player.
Yeah.
Next to Pippo Inzaghi.
Complement each other well.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
We didn't talk about anyone like Roberto Mancini or anyone like that as
Gianluca
well.
Vialli.
Yeah, Gianluca Vialli. Like,
Once again,
Gianfranco Zola.
yeah.
Look, they're all great players, but they would never make a top 11 of the 90s.
Yeah.
When you're playing with other legends and monsters.
I don't think it just goes to show the quality of that era. Really, when you've got so many players.
I keep saying monsters because I look at the European defense and I picture these guys from Space Jam.
Monsters.
By the way, the jerseys for Space Jam 2 just got released.
Did they?
Yeah.
There you go.
I won't be as good as Space Jam 1. Nothing beats that.
Hey, don't disrespect LeBron James, mate.
All right, so we've decided 2 votes for Europe to win the 90s and 1 vote for South America. Is that right?
I mean, I think so.
Yeah, I think so. But like I said, they both had their strengths and possible weaknesses. And if they were to play in a one-off game, it'd be great to watch. But yeah.
I got to be honest though, I find that one of the first questions you asked us at the beginning was about nostalgia, and in 20 years, what would the players of today look at? And I've got to say, I can't think about it and think that they would be considered in the same vein as some of the players from that 90s era. Like, how many players did we just list? Players that didn't even get on the lineup. You know what I mean? I don't think that we in today's era have the depth of talent that we did
not
back
many
then.
would not even make the squad. So
Even South America, like thinking Argentina alone, you've got Simeone, you've got Ortega, you've got Veron, you've got other players that didn't make it. Even if you're comparing 90s and the 2000s, I think 90s still wins. And that can be a discussion for a different podcast.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know why we think 90s and we fall in love with football. Maybe it's just when we were born, but there's a lot of superstars.
Yeah.
I think the quality was spread out a lot. There wasn't just one or two few players that dominated for a long time. It was just dominance in different parts of the decade.
Such a fun decade, and it was a decade where, like, you know, you had the fans that were just as passionate as ever, but starting to get that balance between what was dangerous and unacceptable to what was okay. And so you had that intensity between fandom. You had the competitions that were out there, the most competitive and most intense. I mean, is it really a question? Best decade of football, right?
Wow. Any last comments, guys?
Yeah, no, it's a great topic actually, and I always enjoy talking about these, but they're bloody hard to come up with good starting lines, even bench players on the bench, you know.
Any comparisons are always hard. Hack?
I mean, like, you know, really good to see you boys again, and great to do a podcast on this particular topic. Once again, we always tend to go back to the 90s because I think this is when we all fell in love with football. So, you know, fun to chat. Always like to beat Johnny in an argument, and so hey.
So according to us, guys, Europe 2, South America 1 for the 90s. Would love to hear your feedback. Would love to hear your thoughts. As I mentioned before, subscribe. Keep giving us the love. Go on the website. Check out anything we have. Hit us up. And wait to hear from you. Take care. And thank you.